Europe is enduring its worst heat wave in years, where temperatures are hitting record highs in places like the UK. That the wildfires are also ravaging Portugal, Spain and France, forcing thousands to flee. Firefighters are trying to contain dozens of blazes across the continent, which, according to climate scientists, will continue in greater numbers in the coming decades. Let's take a look at this report.
Of course, we will see also this natural variability, which means that we are not going to break records year by year in a single country or single region, but the direction is clear. And in the future, these kind of heat waves are going to be normal, and we will see even stronger extremes.
And to discuss the recent heat wave hitting Europe and its devastating effects on public health and the environment, joining me from Swansea in the UK is Stefan Doerr. He is a wildfire expert and a professor at Swansea University. And from Ankara, Abdulkadir Develi. He is an associate professor at Ankara Yildırim Beyazit University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Stefan, could you walk us through what has been happening across Europe? What impact have these record temperatures and wildfires had on the continent so far?
Yeah, we've had two factors that compounded to give us a very severe fire season. And this is a long period, an unusually long period of little rainfall across the Mediterranean, but also in some northern areas, for example, in northern Germany, in the western part of the UK. And then more recently, as we all know, we've had this strong heat wave across Europe that had essentially dried the vegetation much further and made the landscape very, very flammable. And this has led to wildfires across Europe, from London here in the UK, Scandinavia, Eastern Germany, and of course in Turkey, Spain, Greece, Italy. So far, we've had about three times the area that we would usually see in Europe at this time of the year.
So, Abdulkadir, how different is this year's heat wave hitting Europe from previous ones? Because we know nearly 2,000 people have died. Did Europe get caught off guard?
Okay, you know that we are just middle of the climate crisis now, and we face the more strong condition of this crisis. And so next year we will face a more strong effect of the climate change. And so we have to do something about that, and especially the south part of the Europe, we now experience it's really the hard the heat conditions, and so here is we need the collective actions to struggle with the fire. And so if we do not need this, it will be the more dangerous stations in the coming years. And so we need the collective actions to struggle with it. But unfortunately, now we have a war in the world between Ukraine and Russia, and there's an energy crisis. And you know that energy is one of the most important factor for climate change. And so nowadays, the world, Germany especially, starts to talk about the cold and to react again, and France started to produce the nuclear as a new energy sources, and so we are now going back to, maybe if the situation going like that, we'll go back to the World War II, the grey weather of the World War II conditions. And so there is a strong position of the Western European Union against the climate change, but now there is a security problems, and so the money maybe will finance the defense industry in the European country and other developed countries, and
yes,
those are one of the most important responsible of the climate change. But we do something as much as possible, but the condition, the political condition of the world is one of the most obstacle for it, I think.
So, Stefan, are you as pessimistic as Abdulkadir, and the world is likely to see a 1.5 degree increase in temperature within the next 20 years if no measures are taken? What will the world look like in the next few decades?
I think it's pretty clear that no matter what we do in terms of reducing our carbon emissions, we are on a trajectory of further warming. Many people are arguing, many climate scientists are arguing that we're probably going to reach 2 degrees. The way this is going at the moment in terms of our effort to reduce carbon emissions, we might be heading for 3 degrees. But no matter what, we have to do absolutely anything we can do to reduce further warming. So we are locked into some more warming, but we have to do everything to reduce this acceleration as much as we can.
So, Abdulkadir, last year's wildfires in Türkiye were labeled the worst in history, which affected more than 200 places in western and southern parts of the country. Is enough being done this year to prevent a repeat, and how well prepared is Türkiye this time?
The climate change, as I mentioned, is responsible mostly about the fire in Turkey and also in Europe, in the world. And so it's possible we explained also the fire because of the climate change, and so, but we experience it now from the last year to this year with the new equipment, and we know how we struggle with the fire, and now we have a much more experience about that, and I hope that we will do the best if there is a worse the fire condition in Turkey. And so, but there is, as I mentioned, the collective approach is needed to here, and we need also finance for the adaptations of the new climate changes. And you know that we have two kind of policy in here, the mitigations and adaptations, but we should support the adaptations. How can we adapt the new climate conditions? And we have to finance it as a world collectively with the European Union and with Turkey. And this is the common issue of all the world, I think.
Yes. So, Stefan, what's your take on that? How to adapt to new climate conditions? What's needed the most? What type of a global cooperation we can talk about it here? And do you think it will be easy for all countries to get on board?
Well, coming back to the first part of your question in terms of our adaptation, when it comes to wildfires specifically, there's a lot we can actually do. It's not just sharing firefighting resources, which is possible across Europe and is functioning quite well, unless we have too many fires and we're running out of resources, which is an issue right now. But there's also the land management, indeed, the preparation, because we have many areas now, especially in the Mediterranean, that are much more densely covered by very flammable forest. And this forest can be managed in a way that is actually less flammable. So the mitigation of the risk is something that we can all do across Europe and, in fact, across the world. There is no doubt that we are seeing more extreme conditions that promote fire. That's something that we call fire weather. We've already seen a 50% increase over the last 40 years of extreme fire weather across the world. And the Mediterranean has been particularly hard affected. But as I said earlier, we can actually do something to prevent those fires from becoming too severe.
So, Abdulkadir, what are the risks for the countries that lie on the Mediterranean basin? Because we see that wildfires have been raging in Greece, Spain, Turkey, Algeria, and Italy. What should these countries do to better prepare for future risks?
The Mediterranean region, as you mentioned, is a very sensitive situation in this in the middle of the climate crisis, because we feel much more than the other country in the world. We have a very sensitive situations, And if there is a 1% of increasing in centigrade, it affects so much all the Mediterranean regions. And so maybe against of the fire, the Mediterranean country can come together to struggle together and with the supporting the equipments to each other. And also there is the common political approach we need to struggle with the fire, I think.
So, Stefan, what kind of a threat does the post-wildfire process pose to public health and environment, and what should be done?
Yeah, we are very familiar with the scenes of firefighters fighting the fires and trying to evacuate people. So protecting people from being directly killed by fire is, of course, the priority. But what is often forgotten is that fire smoke is very dangerous. So across the world, we see about 300,000 people dying prematurely from the smoke. And this is something that is often not in the news. So that's one aspect that's a real threat from fire. But there's more. So after the fire, for example, after an extensive fire, you get ash eroded into watercourses, and that, for example, affects drinking water quality. So our overall water quality in a time when water supply is low is affected as well. We also, in steeper areas, we see landslides after fires. And for example, in California in 2017, 19 people were killed by a landslide that happened after the fire, but was made possible by the fire. And again, we need to prepare for all these. For example, against the smoke, you need long-term warning where the smoke is actually moving to. People shouldn't be exercising. And in some cases, people need to stay indoors.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.